let me introduce to you our next moderator, who will be introducing the next panelist for our topic, Navigating the Research Analyst Career Path. So he is a senior financial analyst of LendUs. He took his BS Accountancy at the University of the Philippines, Visayas, and graduated as cum laude last 2015. He is currently taking his master's degree in applied business economics at the University of Asia and Pacific from 2018 up to the present. He is actually a certified public accountant and already passed the CFA Level 3 exam. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Brett Michael Urmeneta.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Now, it is my honor and privilege to be introducing to you our panelists. Our first panelist is Charles William Ang. A round of applause, please. He is a deputy head of research of COL Financial, the largest online stockbroker in the Philippines. He covers the Philippine banking sector while also helping lead a team of analysts in covering companies listed in the Philippine Stock Exchange. Currently, he also serves as the board of director and mentor at the Calum Trading Institute, a premier educational facility in the Philippines that aims to develop successful traders of global markets. As an advocate of financial literacy, he regularly conducts stock market and financial analysis seminars for COL Financial, Calum, and the CFA Society. Charles graduated cum laude from the Ateneo de Manila University with a Bachelor of Science in Management Engineering degree in 2009. He became a CFA charter holder in 2013. Again, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Charles William Ang. Another panelist, Ms. Caroline, is an equity research analyst at the Philippine Equity Partners Incorporated, a research and trading partner of Bank of America Merrill Lynch. She graduated with a degree of Bachelor of Science in Business Administration and Accountancy, magna cum laude, from the University of the Philippines, Diliman. She is a CPA and a CFA charter holder. She previously held a role in audit and advisory at SGV & Co. and Company, and was the Chief Financial Officer at Elberg Ship Management Philippines Incorporated. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Caroline Vergara. Thank you. Our third panelist is Ms. Ferlin. Ms. Ferlin is a CPA and a Business Administration and Accountancy graduate of the University of the Philippines, Diliman. She jump-started her professional journey by taking up an audit and advisory role in SGV & Company. Subsequently, she became an equity research analyst, then a fund manager in the Bank of the Philippine Islands, or BPI. Currently, she is a part of the institutional sales team of Maybank ATR Kim Eng Securities Incorporated. Ms. Ferlin is also a CFA charter holder. Ladies and gentlemen, again, Ms. Ferlin Cargolio. Thank you, everybody. Just a roll call. Who among you here are coming from the province? Palakpakan na may sigawang hiyawan! Province people! I'm from Tacloban, and I also came from Iloilo. So, hello mga Taclobanan and mga taga-Iloilo. Welcome to Manila. I hope you're doing fine and your stay in Manila will be great and fruitful also. Excited na ba kayo for this forum? Again, excited na ba kayo? All right. Well, the objective of this forum is for you guys to have an understanding and to know more about the life or how it is to be in equity research. We have the panelists here, and we can learn a lot from them. And also for the students, if you have questions, make sure that you have your applications downloaded in your cell phone. You can just post your questions. Please direct your questions to the panelists, to specific panelists, so I can read them out after this session. All right? I believe our audience here will be inspired if our panelists can share their personal experience, how each one of you ended up in equity research career. Sir Charles?
Okay, so for me, when I graduated 10 years ago, that was a long time ago, 10 years ago, I started as a futures trader. So we traded derivative products like gold, like crude oil, sugar, etc., etc. But it was primarily algorithmic. So meaning you let the computer identify patterns and setups, and you work from there. You basically trade based on that particular pattern, right? So it was okay for a while, but after around a year, I realized that it's kind of one-dimensional. Around that time, I was also already taking up the CFA program, so I was kind of aware that there's more to finance than just algorithms and data mining, computer, whatever, right? And so fortunately at that time, I had a friend who encouraged me to apply with COL Financial, and so I've applied, and I fortunately got accepted, and after 9 years, for the last 9 years, I've been working there as an analyst. Yeah, so that's my story. Quite
Yeah.
straightforward.
Yeah, thank you, sir. How about you, Miss Caroline?
Well, mine is probably not straightforward because after I graduated from college, I'm not sure if you guys could relate, but it was a hard decision because there are a lot of things in your mind that you want to do or try, and I mean, you couldn't just choose one. So for me, it was a decision that I had to make. Like, I studied like 5 years of accounting, then I studied another 6 months to take CPA board. So I was like, well, I just had to do audit first, right? Because that was the default. So I tried audit. It was enjoyable because of the people that you get to meet. But there will come a point in time, and I realized it wasn't that sustainable because of the really long hours that you have to spend. And then I went to corporate after that. And then I went to equity research, and this is where I have chosen to stay because I enjoyed that every day you learn something new, and that every day is also a challenge. But it's something that is very fulfilling for me, at least. And I've also stayed because of the work-life balance. Because let's say for me it's very important because we all get 24 hours a day, and whatever we choose to do on every second of that 24 hours will determine our life. So for me, I didn't want to work like work, right? I mean for me, you also need to balance. Someday you will have your family, you need to spend time with your family. So stuff like that. So for me, equity research, it has the growth that I want. I learn a lot of things. At the same time, I'm able to spend time with my family and my loved ones. And the people here are very cool, so we're like family. So that's why I've stayed.
All right, thank you. Miss Ferlin?
Yeah, I probably have the same story as Carol's because I also came from the same school and we actually worked together in that audit firm that she was referring to. But ever since college, I've always been fascinated with the financial markets. So it has been a goal of mine to really work in the financial markets. But after college, I also went to the audit firm first, just to give my course a try. Besides, I've spent 5 years and in college doing accountancy and another 6 months to do the board exam or to review for the board exam. So I did that for a little over a year. And then when I was presented with an opportunity to work for a buy-side firm, I definitely grabbed it. And since then, it was quite a challenging journey. Actually, during my first week in my job as a research analyst, there was a significant news in the sector that I was covering then. So within just a week, I had to put up a report for that specific sector. So since then, although it was challenging, it was definitely very exciting. That's why back then I told myself that this is really where I wanted to be, and I want to grow in this kind of industry.
All right, thank you. Maybe a lot of you here are also thinking about joining the finance industry. So maybe it's just right if I ask Sir Charles if how the CFA program would help our students or the young professionals right now if they wanted to do or they're really decided to join the finance. How is the CFA program going to help their career?
Okay. So number one, the CFA program is very comprehensive. So comprehensive in the field of finance, obviously. So it kind of shows you your options, right? What kind of options that you have after college, what kind of job, whether as an analyst, as a fund manager, as a CFO, what have you, all of those jobs. So you'll get to be familiar with them. And number two, I guess probably more importantly, or equally as important, is that it shows everybody that you're dedicated to the job. If there's one thing I would describe the CFA program as, it's really time-consuming. You really have to have the discipline. You really have to put in the time to pass all the exams, right? So whenever I see a fellow charter holder or a candidate, the first thing that comes to my mind is that I know that that person is committed. That person is disciplined enough, committed enough to put in the time and the effort to excel in this field. So it's not really about the technical expertise, but the attitude towards it. So I think that's my biggest edge.
Okay, thank you. Next question. I believe everyone here, especially in your undergraduate, you've came across with a sell-side research and a buy-side research. Ms. Ferlin, what is the difference between a sell-side and a buy-side research? And what is the value of these two kinds of researches to the firm?
Okay. As mentioned earlier, I came from a buy-side research firm, and then after that, I jumped ship to a sell-side company. So, in a buy-side, as a research analyst in a buy-side company, your analysis, your research, all the data and information you gathered, it's the proprietary the company, the firm has a proprietary ownership over that. So everything you do is exclusive to that company. So, and you are doing that research with the end goal of helping that company to outperform their benchmark, to manage their portfolio that will make them achieve their goal, which is mostly to outperform the benchmark and their peers. So that is a buy-side research. In contrast, the sell-side research analyst, the sell-side caters or services the buy-side firms. So the research analyst of a sell-side company, in contrast to the buy-side analyst, their work, their research, their analysis, these are distributed to their clients, which are the buy-side firms. So they are both very important in their own respects. For the buy-side analyst, of course, since your research is proprietary and you work closer to the fund managers, you know better what they need. So you know exactly what they're looking for, which stocks they're holding, and what specific things they want to know regarding that stock or that sector. So that's the value that you add to the fund manager or your internal clients. Whereas for a sell-side analyst, you're basically the core product of your firm. Because without the research of a sell-side firm, there's really not much to sell. Right now, I'm no longer a research analyst. I'm actually with the sales team of a brokerage firm, Maybank ATR Kim-Eng. And I know, based on experience, that it's very hard to sell something that you don't have. I mean, for example, we don't have coverage in a certain stock. It's very hard to call clients. I mean, you can't just call clients and chat with them about nonsense. You have to call with something on hand, with a research product. So a research analyst in a sell-side company is very important in that way because you're exactly the product that the firm is selling.
All right. In terms of being detailed into the research, which has more detailed research? Is it the buy side or the sell side?
Well, both has to be detailed. It's just that for sell-side analysts, I think it's the same for both in the sense that for a sell-side analyst, for you to have an edge, I mean, there are a lot of brokers, a lot of sell-side analysts in a given market. For you to have an edge, you have to have a very detailed, a very insightful, a very unique kind of product or research report. So for buy-side analysts, it's the same. For you to add value to the fund managers, you have to dig as deep as you can in a certain company or sector. So I think the kind of discipline and skills would be the same for both.
All right. For a person like me, if I wanted to be a research analyst, this is addressed to all of you. Since you've been in the business for how many years already, what are the skills or the skill sets needed for me to be a successful research analyst, both soft skills and hardcore skills? Sir Charles.
Obviously, the number one most important is still hard work. You have to put in the time. But I know it's common to all of the other jobs, so I don't want to really talk about that. I guess the biggest difference probably is that in this field, at least in this job, you have to be entrepreneurial when you're thinking about the company. Because there's usually a misconception that being an analyst is you have to be really good at math. There's a lot of numbers. I think that's a misconception. You just have to be comfortable with math, but the actual math that you do is very basic. As long as you can do, you can compute growth rates or you can calculate, fractions. If you know what 30% of 80 is, if you calculate that even approximately, then you're good to go, right? So you don't really need that like too much math skills. Of course, you have to be comfortable with numbers. You'll be dealing a lot with numbers, but just basic numbers. Instead of that, I think the most important thing as an analyst is being entrepreneurial. No? Because at the end of the day, when you're especially as an equity analyst, you're analyzing businesses, right? Whenever you're investing, whenever you're putting in your money to buy a stock, you're basically buying a business, right? So you have to know how, even you just have to have a basic understanding of, economics, product. You have to understand the product. You have to understand supply and demand, and so on and so forth. So you have to really be entrepreneurial.
Thank you.
Okay, so for me, let's take it step by step. So the job, what is the job of a research analyst? So let's divide it into input, process, and output. So on the process side, you actually have, like what Charles said, you need to analyze the business. You need to process all this data that you get And I guess what will help you do that is technically what you're learning from school right now, which is your technical skills, your financial analysis skills, your modeling skills, you being able to forecast your earnings and arriving at your target prices. And so basically, it's your process part. Now, if you go to the output part, this is actually very important because this is where you actually communicate what you have processed or what you have analyzed. And this is basically report writing and communicating to your clients, or in case of the buy side, communicating it to your portfolio managers, what you've analyzed. And then now let's move to the input. So I've set that aside for last because this one, for me, it's actually challenging. Because for input, not unlike school, in school, when you get your test papers, all the inputs are there already. All you need to do is apply your technical skills, right? And then you get you get the answer. But in the real world, when you start working as a research analyst, the input, you have to get that on your own. So you need to collect data on your own. And there are a lot of things that would help you, like keeping abreast with the news, the business news, or the IRs of the companies. But ultimately, you'll have to gather other things, like you have to be resourceful. So I think one more important skill that you need to emphasize on is resourcefulness, because you don't always get what you want to get. I mean, your data is not always perfect. For example, sometimes this year is missing, or this year is missing, and you have to kind of work with what you have. So you need to be resourceful and creative in making things work, even if it's not complete. So that's.
Okay, thank you. Being resourceful. Miss Verlene?
Okay. I think they've mentioned most of the skills that are needed. But for you to really have an edge, or for your clients, the buy-side firms, the portfolio managers, to really give their attention to you, because they get a lot of reports every day. They get a lot of calls every day. But for them to pick up that phone and actually listen to you, I think what you really need is, resourcefulness or creativity and persistence. I think it's quite common, or it's not as hard to really analyze a company. I mean, especially if you're gonna pursue the CFA charter. For sure, you're gonna be definitely very much prepared for that kind of aspect of the job. But what the buy-side companies are looking for is the uniqueness, or the unique insights in your report. And for you to give them to that, you have to be very creative. You have to give them what other brokers cannot give. For example, URC, they said their coffee business is now recovering. How can you tell for sure if management is telling the truth, right? Go to grocery stores. Look if the shelves are actually empty. Look if people are actually buying the coffee. So these kinds of inputs, these are the inputs that will really give value to and add better value to your customers or your clients. And the other thing is persistence, because as mentioned, there are a lot of brokers, a lot of research reports that go to their emails every day. But since there are a lot, they won't be able to read all of it, right? So for you to really win that client, you gotta talk to them, call them, text them, go to their office, market your report. So I think these two things are what you need to really have an edge in this market, in this industry.
All right, thank you. I understand that being a research analyst, it requires a lot of utilization of Excel and the Word. There are actually a lot of online courses that our students could take so they can be very familiar on the Excel. In your experience, Miss Caroline, when you started as a research analyst, what was your level of expertise for the Excel? Was it something that you really, you were overwhelmed?
Well, for Excel, the thing is because the equity research job is actually my third job already. So during my days in SGV and in corporate finance, I already had a good grasp of Excel, especially in SGV because we audit a lot of data using Excel. And we also like did a bar and stuff. And actually, I got to the point wherein I use VBA already. So it's kind of, it actually helped a lot because when I started with equity research, I think one of the first product that you will ever have is your model of a company, and that is in Excel. So it will help if you already know the basic shortcuts and formulas because it will make your work faster.
Okay. For the information, everyone, I'm also a newbie in the Excel. I just know the simple VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, and the pivot. So it would be a good practice if you already start, harnessing the Excel tools. There are actually online courses in the internet, the Coursera, and a lot of online sources where you could, practice your Excel. There are different analysis, or there are two school of thoughts in terms of analysis, the fundamental and the technical analysis. Sir Charles and Miss Caroline, could you explain a little further the difference between, maybe for you, sir, fundamental analysis?
Okay, so fundamental analysis is all about understanding the intrinsic value of a business, meaning everything that at the end of the day, everything that affects the earnings of the business. That's the job of the fundamental analyst. Now, so whether, let's say, a competitor releases a new product, what's the impact on earnings, that's your job. That's the fundamental analysis. Let's say the GDP suddenly decelerates, that's fundamental analysis. Let's say the trade war, for example, or whatever, a new president comes in, everything that affects the bottom line, the earnings of a company, that's fundamental analysis. So fundamental analysis is all about basically forecasting everything that could happen to earnings, forecasting that for the future, for the foreseeable future, and then getting a value that basically we call the fair value that the stock price should trade at.
How about you? The
Well,
technical analysis.
Okay, but I'm just going to add something on the fundamental. So it's actually, if you contrast the two, for fundamental, it's a bit more long-term because you actually have to look at what's going to be in the future of the company, right? But for technical, I would say it's a bit more short-term because you look at the historical prices and the volume and trying to see if you will get a pattern or a pattern that could lead you to maybe predict where it's going to go. But ultimately, it's something that you do. If purely technical, you really won't have to look at the company at all. Like you're just gonna look at the price patterns and the volume. But yeah, so I think in a way, it's good to use both because for fundamental, it will actually help you like pick the stock or pick the name and at least know that you're going to be able to sleep well because this company, the earnings forecast is good. But for technical, it could help you at least get a good entry point or suggest a good entry point for your clients or a sell point if you turn bearish on the name already.
Okay, sir, Charles, you have something to add?
So in addition to that, no, for technical analysis, it's primarily about like understanding behavior, no? Behavioral finance, no? Behavior, human behavior, meaning you're trying to basing it on the price movement and the volume for the last, what have you. You're trying to gauge the level of aggressiveness of buyers and of sellers. So this is behavioral in nature, no? In contrast to fundamental analysis, which is more intrinsic. And yeah, so that's the reason why like technical traders, sometimes they don't even have to know the name of the company. They just show me the chart, and everything's there, everything that I need. I don't even need to know like the name of the company or what it does.
The price and the volume is all that matters for the technical analysis. May I remind everyone, if you have questions, you can just post your questions in the app. Please direct your questions to the specific panelists. So later on, after this panel discussion, which will be ending in about 1 minute, I'll be reading the questions. Last question, so we could end the panel discussion. What are the rewards, as well as the challenges you've faced as an analyst? Miss Caroline.
Well, let's go to the challenge first. Actually, what is challenging is every day is actually a learning process, because sometimes you need to be quick, actually. It's a challenge because sometimes things will happen that you don't expect and that you need to act on it. So you need to really be quick. And the thing is, as Ferlin have said, you have competitors. So you need to, make sure you do this first before they do it, right? And I guess sometimes it's going to be a challenge when your call doesn't go the right way, right? Like, for example, if you have a buy on a stock and the stock keeps on falling, even if you did all your analysis, sometimes things will happen. The market is very volatile, and it really just won't go your way. So it's a challenge for you to not lose hope. That's all I can say. I mean, you need to keep trying and trying. The most important is you have your opinion, you did your analysis, you did your homework. So that's a challenge. And, well, the reward, I would say, is that if learning is a challenge, it's also a reward because, I mean, at least for me, if you get to know things every day, I mean, you kept abreast with what's happening in the country. It's actually very nice, actually. For example, when it will get to a point where when you talk to your friends, it's kind of like you know everything about what's happening, right? So it's very fulfilling in that sense. So.
How about you, Miss Ferlin? Can you recall the most fulfilling moment when you were an equity analyst before, and what was that?
It's definitely very fulfilling if all your hard work became fruitful. I mean, if everything you've researched, you've analyzed, turned into a good call, you were able to communicate it well to the fund managers, and they actually acted on it. They invested in that stock because of your recommendation. And because of that, the fund, or yes, the portfolio outperformed. That, I guess, is the most fulfilling part of the job.
Thank you. So short and sweet. How about you, sir? Was there any instance wherein you were faced with conflict of interest or independence issue when you issued a report? And if there's any, how did you acted on it?
Conflict of interest? None. No, the CFA is very clear when it comes to conflict. So none. But I'd like to just add on the biggest reward na lang. No?
All right, go ahead,
For the
sir.
biggest reward being an analyst, because I really believe that everybody really needs to be investing at the end of the day, whether you become an analyst or not, right? There's a lot of you here. It's unlikely that a majority of you would be analysts, right? Having said that, I believe that each and every one of you should be investing in the stock market. No? So it simply because it's I don't know how many times this has been said today. I didn't attend the morning session, but over the long term, stocks really do outperform any other asset class. And so having said that, for me, the biggest benefit that I got for the last 9 years of being an analyst is that I learned myself how to invest. No? So that's, I guess, the biggest perk. No? I learned how to invest, and, uh, and that's really very, very important. And I'm sure that I'll be an investor much, much, much longer than I'll be an analyst. No? So even after I retire as an analyst, no, move on to other jobs, I'll surely be an investor for the rest of my life. No? So please, invest.
Okay, thank you, sir. We're done with the panel discussion. So right now, I'll be entertaining questions coming from you. I actually have a number of questions directed to certain panelists. This question is interesting. This is applicable to all undergraduates. Ms. Ferlin, this question came from Heaven, Joyce, or K. Is it okay for a fresh graduate to pursue research analyst as a first job? How big is the risk of failing?
Definitely, it's definitely a very good decision to start up your career, especially in the financial markets as a research analyst, because it's the normal course of progression, especially for foreign buy-side firms. You really have to start as a research analyst, and until then, can you progress into becoming a portfolio manager or any other kind of career. So, but it's definitely good because it will prepare you. It will give you the hard skills, the financial analysis skills, asking the right questions, communicating your research to other people. So it gives you the kind of training that you need in order to progress in your career. But aside from that, I think this kind of job really opens up a lot of doors. As mentioned to you earlier, I was a buy-side research analyst. I became a fund manager because of this kind of experience. And then now I'm with sales of a sell-side firm. And you can literally take any other kind of job because of this kind of experience. So I really recommend that you start your career being a research analyst.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. This came from Marco Borja. This is for Sir Charles. Did you ever experience having forecast about something, but it doesn't go on what you expected it to be?
Of course, like every other week. The thing with this job is that, whenever you're dealing with stocks in general, no, and any other financial asset, actually, there's nothing is certain, no. So everything is probabilistic, we often say. So it really will happen. So there's lots of uncertainty. That's part of the job. So you have to be humble enough. I think the previous panel was talking about that multiple times. You have to be humble enough. You have to be, in a way, strong enough to admit your mistakes. And sometimes the thing is that sometimes even if you did 100% right, all of the things right, sometimes you just don't know. It's probabilistic. So we just move on. I mean, that's just like, I'm sure that's part of the game.
Okay, thank you. For the information of everyone, I actually received a number of questions pertaining to opinions about specific stocks. Our panelists here made it clear earlier that they're not going to issue comments on particular stocks because they're specifically may gag order from their compliance department. So, last question. This one is for Miss Caroline. What are the books would you suggest to our aspiring research analysts that they should be reading right now?
Well, aside from listening to your teachers, of course, and reading your usual finance books, of course, maybe you can start also with the CFA books. Yeah, for level 1 at least. I think it will help you in a lot of ways because all your technical skills, all the stuff that you would need at least in the first few years or when you're starting your career as a research analyst, it's there. And if you want to read further, then maybe the fun books like stuff about the stock markets and stuff like that.
All right, I think that's the end of our panel discussion and question and answer portion. It's been a great time spending with you guys here today.